What's that? Huh.
Pick up! Building the game's world! Rush tricks! Night game hunting!
Oh yeah!
Hello again folks and welcome back to another episode of Game Hunting Live, and this week we're hitting up not one, not two, but 3 towns on the hunt for that retro gold that I need so much to add into my retro gaming collection. I think this is the best way of doing things, hitting up a couple of locations on a roundabout route to save as much fuel and to get as much game hunting goodness in as possible. Before we head off to our first location, I'll just remind you folks watching at home to please hit that like button if you enjoyed the video and to subscribe. So I put new videos out every Saturday live at 5 and really want you along for the ride. Now, off to our first town. Here we go then, first store of the day, and straight away my eyes are drawn to these Star Wars Hot Wheels. At first I thought these were Micro Machines, but obviously as you can see here, these are Hot Wheels. A little bit too expensive for my taste, but a pretty cool start to the day. Inside the shop, one of the first things that caught my eye was this Walking Dead box set. It was just a shame it was in French, but for £1.50 I think this was a really good deal. So you probably heard a dog whining in the background. Just a heads up, that is my dog, but he's outside happy with my wife. Some charity shops he's allowed into and some he's not allowed into, and the ones he's not allowed into he's probably going to make a little bit of a fuss, so you'll hear him in the background. This next item is one of the most nostalgic things I've ever found. This Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles stationery set. That is because I always used to get stationery sets exactly like this, the exact same one as kind of stocking fillers or small gifts. Like, I literally had this one for my schoolwork 20 or 30 years ago. So seeing this in the charity shop was amazing. As we were going around Walsham, we saw this sign for this pop-up charity shop. I did find one game in there, but I didn't film as it was super quiet in there. It was literally me and the people selling, so I'll show you what game that is later on in the video. This next charity shop had a really strong selection of DVDs. There were some games hidden throughout the DVDs. You can see here Soldier of Fortune 2, absolutely amazing PC game, which I think is also on the original Xbox. A game I'll always pick up is Call of Duty World at War, as this is an easy flip straight into CX. Continuing to search for the DVDs, I found a couple of JRPG related items, namely this Final Fantasy Spirits Within movie, as well as Lost Odyssey, a really good JRPG, which is exclusive to the Xbox 360, but just make sure it has all 4 discs. Sadly it doesn't trade in for very much, but cool items to see nonetheless. Continuing on to the children's DVD section, I use that term loosely as I found this Mortal Kombat cartoon DVD. I have never seen this one before, and you know, these kind of DVDs, if I've never seen them before, I'm probably going to pick them up. You know, for a quid, it doesn't really matter how bad it is, I'm just going to grab it, add it to the collection. There was also a really good selection of Pokemon DVDs in the children's section, and a lot of these series haven't made it to Netflix or any of the streaming sites yet, so you know, being able to pick these DVD ups for just a quid is really good. It's just a way you can watch these, especially a lot of the Pokemon movies. Most of the older Pokemon movies have not made their way to streaming websites, and you know what, I don't really know if or even when they will, so being able to pick them up in a charity shop for £1 is a pretty good deal. You know, for £1, even if it's not the best movie, it's worth grabbing. Directly next to the children's DVD, there was a very small selection of Nintendo DS games. The only one that really caught my eye was Need for Speed Pro Street, as you know, you don't see a lot of these Need for Speed games on the DS, and you know, I normally see loads and loads of shovelware, so if I even see a half decent DS game, chances are I'm going to pick it up. Speaking of Need for Speed, one last kind of look through the DVDs before I headed off, and I saw the Need for Speed movie. I have still not actually seen this video game, I guess, related movie, so let me know if it's worth it in the comments down below. Next up on our game hunting adventure, we were off again to North Walsham, a place I go to pretty often because they have a really good selection of charity shops as well as Disc and that amazing video game shop. So nothing really in the DVDs. They did have a couple of Xbox games, but a lot of these were really overpriced. When it comes to Call of Duties, it's knowing which ones trade in. That one does not. This FIFA does also not trade in, even though it's £1. Dragon Age 2, even though it's an amazing game, doesn't trade in for more than £2. There was nothing really in here. A lot of these were really overpriced. Like Ghost is another one which doesn't trade in very well. This game would have traded in nicely, but for £5, that's not a very good deal. Even if it is lenticular, you know, I have a weakness for lenticular. And yeah, like the Pirates of the Caribbean game, again, not really worth picking up. And one of the most common Wii games of all time, Wii Play, never pick it up. not even remotely game related, but something that was quite interesting to see was all of these old corgi toys. Like, I do occasionally see these on car boots or even in charity shops, never on this scale, but maybe this is a kind of thing I need to look into because the value of some of these seemed quite high. Sometimes, you know, you'd get these in like a big bargain bin or something at a car boot, so maybe it's something I'm going to look into a little bit more, maybe expand my knowledge, maybe make a few quid. Next charity shop, and I'm instantly drawn to a nice little pile of Nintendo DS games. You know what I say? Always check them. You never know, there might be a Pokemon hiding in there. 99% of the time, there will not be. I don't think I've actually found one yet again. So unsurprisingly, mainly shovelware there. Searching around for games here. There is some right on the top shelf, nearly out of reach of most people. Midnight Club Los Angeles is a fantastic game. I do already have it in my collection. Rockstar, please bring this franchise back or just make any game. Like, honestly, GTA 5, we are kind of finished with you. One game I did want to pick up though was Saints Row the Third, the full package. Now it's because the DLC is on a separate disc. So even if this game gets delisted, taken off Xbox Live, you can still play all the add-ons. And trust me, the add-ons for this game are absolutely fantastic. So being able to have a hard copy of this for in the future is an absolute great deal. Also, there was this Garfield 2 game. I don't know if there's a Garfield 1, but it just goes to show you never know every single game. I've never heard of this game, no idea about it. Another store and another wall of DVDs, and hidden among them was a couple of games. The only one I had a slight interest in was Guitar Hero 3 Legends of Rock, because I always check these Guitar Hero games. There is a couple of them that trade in quite well. Sadly, this isn't one of them, but arguably it is probably the best Guitar Hero game. But let me know in the comments down below what you think is the best Guitar Hero game. So it turned out this was about the time of day that my dog had decided he'd had enough for the day and was going to go to sleep on the floor of the charity shop. We've all had hard days, but can you honestly say you've ever fallen asleep on the floor of a charity shop? I guess not. This is literally one of my favourite things to find in a charity shop, Mario Kart on the Wii. If you can pick this up cheap, it trades in fantastically. That's right, folks, the game was empty. I did check behind the counter, somebody had nicked it. Undeterred though, of course I carried on my hunt, checking through the other games, and the game I keep seeing randomly, I didn't see it for years, now I see it all the time, is this World War II combat flight simulator game. It is a really solid game, but I did pick it up a couple of months ago, and sadly it doesn't trade into CX. And speaking of CX, here's another game which trades in really well, Call of Duty Black Ops. So picking this up for £1, trading it in for a £4 voucher is kind of a no-brainer. It's so hard to know with these Call of Duties though. Like, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 does not trade in very well. It's just so random. I don't really understand why some trade in better than others. So let me know in the comments down below if you do know. This is a game I have been after a while, The Force Unleashed on the Wii, because this is a slightly different game than the one that was released on the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3. So whenever I'm in North Walsham, I'll always go to Disc and Dat. It is one of my favourite kind of retro game shops in the North Norfolk area, and if you're in the area, I definitely recommend giving it a visit. But I was not prepared for the game that I found on the shelves this visit. This is a game I've been looking for so long. A black label Silent Hill on the PlayStation 1. But you can see here it's been bundled with Silent Hill 2 and Silent Hill 3, which unfortunately I do already have in the collection. Otherwise, I would have been very tempted by this bundle deal because it is a good deal, but I'm still looking for that copy of Silent Hill by itself. Quite interestingly as well, there is this copy of Fallout New Vegas, which is sealed. Very nice. Every time I see these Doom figures, I am tempted to pick them up. They are quite pricey, but I just think they look awesome in anyone's games room. They're an amazing display piece. I've really been looking to boost my NES collection at the moment, and there were some pretty good titles in here, some pretty cheap ones and some slightly more expensive ones, as well as a really large selection of Nintendo DS games and a huge selection of Atari games. I cannot remember the last time I saw this many Atari games in one place. So many good titles, so many loose retro bits in this store. It's one of the best things. Sometimes you just want to pick up some retro games cheap, and one of the best ways to do that is loose. Whenever I see Wii U games, I always check to see if there's any I don't have in the collection. I do not have Wii Sports Club, and that is because this is becoming a pretty pricey title for the Wii U, which is surprising. Speaking of Atari games, we have some boxed Atari games as well. Considering these things are nearly 40 years old, seeing boxed Atari games in this day and age is super cool, and I just love the artwork on these. This one isn't really the best one, but there was also some amazing big box PC games. Like, check out this Alien vs Predator 2. Some of these games are starting to fetch big bucks now. So yeah, if you ever see big box PC games at your local charity shop or car boot, check them out. They are worth adding into the collection. This, for me, is one of my all-time favourite big box PC games, Half-Life Generations. I have really fond memories of going to Curry's or PC World, whichever one it was, and picking it up. And it's really cool they've bundled this with opposing forces. Like, the Half-Life games big box is something I'd love to add to my collection. My favourite thing about Disc and Dat is that they have literally a little bit of everything. And I feel like this might be the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles DVD I'm looking for. I have 3 of the Turtles kind of singular DVDs. I wasn't sure if this was the one I had missing from my collection. I had to check, was tempted to pick it up. The best things about Disc and Dat is the selection of retro toys and various retro memorabilia they have in the back. Like, look at that Rise of the Tomb Raider poster. And when I say they have a selection of figures, they have a bit of everything. We're talking Star Trek, Star Wars, like Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, Doctor Who. Literally just a little bit of Disc and Dat. They have everything. There's so many cool things in it, and it changes all the time. Like this, if you're into your retro toys, you need to visit here. They have so much cool stuff. Every time I go in, I find something new that I've never seen before, such as this Shadows of the Empire Star Wars figure. That was one of my favourite games in the N64. I never knew they made figures for it, but it's just everywhere you look is something you've either never seen before or never knew you needed until now. And there is literally just a little bit of everything. If you have any interest in retro toys, you'll find something you want. One of the standout finds on this trip, though, was these James Bond Jr. figures. I was a massive fan of this TV series when I was younger, and I never really knew they did figures for it. And to see them in 2022, brand new in the box, is just amazing. These are super cool. I didn't pick them up today, but I think somewhere in the near future I may be heading back and picking up a couple of these figures. As our final stop in North Walsham for the day, there was just time to see the North Walsham Banksy, who had painted on the side of Disc and Dat, and then we're off to our third and final location of Stalham. I obviously know this isn't an actual Banksy piece, even though there is a few in this area, but you know, who knows, maybe next year. Here we are then in the first store in Stalham, and a store I've never been before, and this is the kind of place I love. It has a little bit of everything. It has the more expensive stuff in the glass cases, just clothes rails everywhere, stuff everywhere. It may seem cluttered to some people, but this is the kind of store I love to dig through, where you have to work to find the cool stuff. One of the first things I found was this incredible Boba Fett bubble bath. At first I thought of it on this little plinth, it was a statue. It's a bubble bath for the original movie. £10 may seem pretty steep, but can you really put a price on an amazing item like this? As soon as I saw this, I knew there was going to be some really cool stuff elsewhere in the store. It didn't take me too long to find the video game section, and it was a pretty decent selection of games. Of course, we had some Wii shovelware, we had some FIFAs, and I can never remember which one is the FIFA you're looking for to trade in. I think it's FIFA 18 on the Xbox 360. That one still trades in for a couple of quid, which for a FIFA is pretty good. As you folks know by now, if I see an original Xbox game I do not already own, chances are I'm going to pick it up. And for £1, this may not be the most exciting game anyone has ever seen, but you know, original Xbox games are going to get harder to get, so I'm going to pick it up for a quid. I did have a quick flick through these Wii games, but sadly they were mainly all shovelware, and that is what you find with a lot of Wii games. There is a lot of garbage titles out there. You're going to find a lot of sports games in any charity shop you ever go to, as this is where sports games go to die. There was a couple of PlayStation 2 games, but correct me if I'm wrong, there's nothing really to write home about here, so I did leave them all behind. Now, who remembers this cartoon, Brave Star? I have strange memories of this cartoon. I can't really commit to if I actually liked it. I just remember watching it. I can remember very little about it, but the time to pick something up is when you see it. So for a quid or so, I'm going to pick this one up and relive it. On to the next store down the road, and this store always does seem to overcharge for their games, and this is kind of evident in My Horse and Me for the Wii, classic Wii shovelware for over £3. It's just like, Sometimes a game like this I'd probably pick up for a bit of a laugh for like 50p or even a quid, but for £3 something I'm definitely going to leave it behind. Also in the DVDs there was another Wii shovelware, World of Zoo, which again for £2 it's probably just not even worth it. I think a lot of these Wii games are just so forgettable or have such little actual gameplay or depth to them. They're just basically going to sit in bargain bins and charity shop walls for forever and a day. You could tell it was coming to the end of our day of hunting as the dog had once again decided to go to sleep in the middle of the charity shop floor. But you know what they say, the hunt isn't over until it's over, so on to the next store. And on a spindle of DVDs was hiding a couple of games. One which did stand out to me was Guitar Hero 3 for the PlayStation 2. Again, sadly, this one doesn't trade in for too much in CX, and at the end of the day, if I'm going to play Guitar Hero 3, I'm probably going to play it on either the PlayStation 3 or the Xbox 360. 50p, it was kind of tempted to pick this up, but just leave it behind. Another game which I used to pick up all the time from car boots and charity shops is Just Dance for the Wii. This used to trade in for a decent amount at CX. I think post-COVID and people being able to leave the house again, they're not really playing the original Just Dance on the Wii as much as they used to. So yeah, I did leave this behind, but yeah, so many times I've traded this in CX in the past. It was coming to the end of another day of hunting, and it was only fair to let the dog go on a hunt all of his own. So we found him a pet store and let him pick a little something out for himself. So he had something to take home to take back to the games room to enjoy in the evening, even though he did seem more interested in a lot of the pet bedding. But eventually, after picking through many things, he did make his decision and settle on possibly the biggest treat in the entire store. He really is a great picker. So that's it for another weekend of game hunting. It turns out the dog did have the last laugh, finding the best find of the day in this lobster pot washed up on the beach. Now, let's take it back to the games room for the pickups. I really think when it comes to game hunting, planning and preparation is key. In the course of just one day, we managed to hit up 3 towns and about 20 to 30 charity shops and game shops. And I managed to get some incredible bits, which we're now going to go through. One of the first things I picked up was this Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles kind of 2 notepads, a pencil and a rubber. Now to a lot of you folks this may not seem like a big thing, but this has such memories attached to it for me, and yeah, it's such a small thing, but it's just really cool to find little bits like this from your childhood when you're out hunting. On the hunt this week, I actually picked up quite a few DVDs. That's because, to my knowledge, none of these DVDs are on any of the major streaming websites. So the only way to really watch them is on DVDs. The first one is Mortal Kombat Defenders of the Realm, and I never knew there was a Mortal Kombat cartoon. I don't really know why this exists. You know, it's only PG, but it exists. It was a quid, so I'm going to pick it up. Next up, we have these 2 Pokemon DVDs, and I just love the Pokemon movies and the TV series. I'm really glad that Netflix has started making new episodes of the Pokemon series, and yeah, to pick these up for £1 each, kind of a no-brainer. The final DVD box set I picked up is Brave Star. I have kind of vague memories of watching this back in maybe the late 80s, early 90s, but I can't really remember it, but it kind of stirred a memory, so I had to pick it up. Out of these DVDs, these 3 DVDs here, if you bought them today in CX, would have set you back £6. So getting them for half price at £3 is pretty good. When it comes to this Brave Star DVD, I couldn't really find a listing for this one, and as I'm not even sure if I like it, I'm not really going to put a price in it, but it's good to double up on these 3 DVDs. On to the games, and I'm sure the suspense is killing you of what game I picked up at that pop-up charity shop all the way back in Walsham at the start of the video, and that was, of course, Need for Speed Most Wanted on the PlayStation 3. Now, I actually already have this in the collection. It was only a quid, and I thought it traded in for a couple of quid at CX. Sadly, it's not that much over a quid, but I guess 60p profit is better than nothing. Speaking of Need for Speed, I also picked up Need for Speed Pro Street on the Nintendo DS. Like, you see Need for Speed games all the time, but it's very rare you see them on the Nintendo DS. So to pick this up for a quid, wasn't too bad a deal. The main thing is, it is complete with the manual and everything. So yeah, happy to add this one into my DS collection. This next game is actually quite an interesting one. It is International Winter Sports on the original Xbox. You may think that's really not that interesting, Dan. Well, I only paid £1 for this. This would only be £2 in CX. But the thing is, it is out of stock in CX. A lot of these original Xbox games now are going out of stock in CX, and it's becoming more and more rare that they come back into stock. I think over the next few years, original Xbox collecting is going to get a lot harder. So grab these games while you can. You're probably wondering why I was so excited to pick up Star Wars The Force Unleashed on the Nintendo Wii. And there is a simple reason for this. This is because this is the only version of the game that has dual mode. So it's essentially a multiplayer mode where you can battle loads of Jedi, Sith, bounty hunters, even Chewbacca in multiplayer battles. This is also strangely the version that Limited Run are porting onto the Nintendo Switch and PlayStation 4. And the thing is, even though it's a Wii game, the motion controls are really good for this game. So yeah, I'm super excited to add this Star Wars game into my collection. One of the main reasons I collect video games is preservation. I want to be able to go back and play these games in 5, 10, even 30 years time. And that is why I was really happy to pick up Saints Row the Third, the full package. Because the main thing with this is it includes all of the DLC on the disc. With a lot of these digital-only DLCs, they can be delisted due to licensing, or even when the console's online service gets taken down. If you can pick up a copy of a game like this, with all the DLC on a disc, they can never take it away. I paid £1.50 for this, but for me, it's priceless. There we have it then, that was an absolute whirlwind of a day, hitting up nearly 30 charity shops over 3 towns in one day. A little bit of a sad ending here. I did pick up this copy of Mario Kart Wii. Of course, it was empty, and the cashier did let me take this away as he was literally going to bin the box. But it does make me feel sad that in a world we live, that people are both stealing from charity shops and kind of having the need to steal from charity shops. At the end of the day, this was a £1 game, and it just makes me sad that somebody felt the need to steal it. But if they needed it that bad, then hopefully they get some help. Thanks again for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like the video, it really helps the channel. Comment, as I love talking to you folks. Subscribe for new videos every Saturday as well as bonus videos. And as always, keep playing the game. See y'all soon.